All right, hello everyone. My name is Adam Braden. I'm a program manager in the Windows Developer Platform team, and I'm here with Miguel Ramos.
Hello everyone, I'm Miguel Ramos. I'm a program manager in the user experience team.
And we're here to talk to you about a very developer-oriented session. We have lots of code and samples, and we're going to get into some of the lower-level details of what we've been doing in the Windows platform and how you can take advantage of those in your existing Win32 and .NET applications, and some of the benefits of the platform that we've been building over the past few years. But first, why are we even talking to you about desktop app development with Win32 and .NET applications? The reason why is because even though Microsoft and the industry has been talking about cloud and mobile for the past 4 to 5 years, our own VS telemetry tells us that many of you are still out there doing .NET and client application development. Whether it's maintaining existing applications, bug fixes for very targeted updates to your existing apps, and occasionally even brand new projects. You still do those in WinForms and WPF and even native code. And so really desktop application is still very much alive and active out there. It's sort of, I think I heard a term called dark matter. It's still out there, people still do it, but it doesn't always get all the visibility that it deserves. And partly because Microsoft, we haven't really been talking about what we've been doing in the Win32 or .NET space as much over the past few years. It's all been very focused on Azure. The other trend that we also see is that Windows 10 has been out in the market for over 3 years. And most enterprises either have updated, are planning to update, or started their update cycle to move to Windows 10, especially with Windows 7 end of life coming up in the near future. And so what this really means for you, your applications, is that you can now start making bets and taking advantage of those features in Windows 10 in your existing applications. So let's kind of go over that and see what we've got. Now, one of the challenges that we've had with building our platform, even though the Windows development is still alive and well, the challenges are that historically we've built 2 platforms over the recent years. We have the Modern Application Platform, or UWP, or Universal Apps, which were focused on a very consumer, touch-based, touch-oriented user experience. And we also have desktop applications, which are pretty much all-powerful, high-productivity, mouse and keyboard-focused experiences. And to date, these 2 platforms do not mesh very well. And it makes it hard for developers, you developers, to take advantage of those capabilities in the other platform and be able to use the strengths of those. Moving forward, we want to break this boundary between the desktop Win32 platform and the modern platform. We want to make the modern platform just another set of capabilities that you can opt into your desktop app development. And we also want to make desktop applications more powerful to be able to use those desktop application capabilities. Kevin Gallo at Build introduced this concept that we're moving to. We're really moving towards one Windows platform. And it really doesn't matter where you start in. If you've already got an adopted universal apps, we're going to start bringing you more and more power from the desktop app development. And if you're at the desktop space, but you want to opt into some of those features of modern application development, an example might be trusted install via MSIX, or some of the new UI controls that we've built and invested in over the last 3-4 years. You want to bring those into your WPF applications. We're going to start breaking that boundary so that you can modernize your applications and give them the capabilities and features that your apps require to produce more powerful, secure, and compelling applications. So quick overview, and then we'll go into some of the coding details here. We want to first focus on UWP for line of business apps and what we've been doing in the platform to help you, both at the platform level and various custom controls. Then we'll show you how you can use those platform features in your existing .NET applications via XAML islands. We'll spend quite a bit of time on that. Next, I'll show you the Windows 10 APIs that we've been investing in that you can call already from your existing Win32 applications. I'll tie it in, then I'll wrap up with how you can start calling the graph and the graph SDK from your existing Win32 applications, and some of the investments we've made with the Windows Community Toolkit there. And lastly, for those of you that really want to live on the edge, we'll show you how you can take your existing WinForms and WPF apps and start running them on .NET Core 3. So we have a lot of content to go over, and it'll be a very code-oriented demo. But first, one of the things we realized in terms of building UWP is that we were missing a canonical example enterprise application app that would build, so you guys can look and see the guidance the architecture guidance required for building an enterprise app based on the modern platform. And so Miguel here worked very closely to build an updated app, and you can see that we have on the .NET application architecture site an example for desktop applications. And to show just a little bit about that, I'll let Miguel take over.
Thank you, Adam. So let me go directly to the application. To start this app called Barsandel Inventory.
Oop, hit number 7.
Yep, there we go. This app is for managing people and customers and orders for our enterprise company called Barsandel, who sells some kind of lamps. Another interesting thing about this application is completely functional. Means that there is no fake views or something like that. Everything that you will see here is working end to end. And the last point is about everything that we did in here is targeting the false creators update. Means that nothing here is new. You can create this application today with the Windows update of the last year. So let me go into the app. Nope, I don't want to use Windows Hello so far. Let me go there. So this is the app, this is the shell, where you can see a navigation bar where we can navigate into the different sections, like a customer, order, products. In the customer, you will see the canonical master detail, where you can navigate into each customer and see all the details, some orders over there. You can also go into the customers and edit directly the control. If you need some kind of downloaded window to work in different screens, you can do that. We resolve the problem of the concurrency. What happens if I delete this item? What happens that this view is also obsolete. You can also change from using, let me click on settings, change from using SQLite to SQL Server or using even Azure. So as you will see, it's a completely functional application. You can find all the source code in the GitHub, in the inventory sample. In this folder, you have the source code and all the documentation that explains step by step how we create this app and what pattern we use. We use model review model, we use some kind of dependency injector, services locator. We also use a lot of services that are implemented, like the navigation services, message services. All this source code is for you. But again, this is targeting the false creators update. So there is nothing new in here.
So essentially, this is a canonical enterprise example. You guys probably have seen something very similar, data-dense, heavy application that many of your users spend 8 hours a day in managing customers and orders and products and things like that. Miguel mentioned that it's based on the Fall Creators Update, or RS3, or last fall's update. Why don't you give me a quick update of what we've done in the platform since then, and let's try to update that application and show users how easy it is.
All right, I'm going to give you a very quickly update. because we have another session with more details. But let me jump into this app that we have called the SAML's Controls Gallery. If you want to learn something about all the controls that we add into the platform, you can download from the store this app, the SAML Controls Gallery, and just take a look at all the controls that we have in the platform. So for example, let me show you something new, like the menu bar. This is a control that people was asking for years. So this is a canonical menu bar that you can find in Win32 applications.
So it only took us a few years, but now we have menu bar inside the modern platform.
Yes. That was funny. The split button. We have another control called the split button. So we are not also adding new control. We also have new functionality that we add into another control that we release in another updates, like the navigation view, for example, or even the text boxes. One interesting thing about the text controls is right now, doing nothing as a developer, if I go to any kind of text box, for example, this text box, I can ink, and immediately we are going to have this kind of inline supporting. So I can say something like, hello.
So ink is supported in text boxes without changing any code.
Exactly.
All right. So if you have new scenarios that may require clipboard type scenarios or signatures, you can get that capability for free.
Some update interesting, for example, was in the navigation bar. If we go into navigation and go to the navigation view, we go here, we will see that we support today in October 2018 update, wonderful name.
In the coming update, yes.
New kind of horizontal navigation.
That looks pretty cool. That looks like a good savings for white space. The navigation bar on the left side took up a lot of white space. Let's see if we can you show me how to update the navigation view in the Van Arsdale inventory app to do top-based navigation?
Yeah, I can do, for sure. So first of all, let me do something. So this is the navigation view. Let me take a look to the source code. And it looks like there is a new property called pane display mode. So let me jump into the Van Arsdale inventory sample over there in here. And this is the clone of the GitHub. In the clone of the GitHub, you will see that this is targeting the false creators update. Well, the first thing I need to do is just change the target into the latest version of which is the 1909. Change that, and then I need to just go into the navigation view, and inside the navigation view, set up this new property. Let me find out where is the navigation view. The navigation view is in the views, main shell view. In here, I'm using my navigation view. It should modify that. Because it takes a while to Visual Studio to reset all the things. The things I'm going to do is just jumping into a project that everything is already set up, so we save time to everyone. So this is exactly the same project, but I retarget to this latest build, and when I go to my views, the main shell view in here.
So this project is already targeting RS5, and you've updated the navigation view to include the new property.
Exactly, and I'm just adding this new property,
okay,
which is the pane display mode.
So show me that running.
Yep, let me compile this. Right now it's deploying the app.
It's a large app. It takes a minute to deploy.
All right, yes, please do it. Maybe later. And there we go. We have,
voila.
Yep.
One project property change and a property change on a grid, and we've changed our navigation view for RS5. Now, how many of you have deployed RS5? Or the October 2018 update, insider builds? Nobody. My enterprise doesn't have RS5. I have RS3. How do I get the navigation view on RS3 for the fall creators update?
This is a very good question. So We are shipping a new way. We have a new way of shipping control called Windows UI library. So we are going to have a set of controls that is going to have exactly the same functionality that we have in this latest version of the update. And we are going to support this control down level. Means that the navigation view, for example, which is part of this set of controls, is going to have support from the anniversary update to the latest one.
So you're telling me with the Windows UI library, we're taking the Windows controls that we ship in the latest update and bringing those down level all the way to which version?
To the anniversary update.
Anniversary update, or RS1 as we call it internally.
Or RS1 internally.
Okay.
Yes.
My enterprise is on RS3, but show me how I can take this control and use it targeting RS3 instead of RS5.
This is really simple and very straightforward. The only thing I need to do is go into my project and just reference to a new Nugget package. So this is the new package called Microsoft.ui.xaml, where I install this package. The only thing I have to do is just go into my app, and in my app just reference all the styles that have this control in this specific library. Let me jump into another project just to save time, because this is also actually targeting to RS5, but I want to show you another project that is targeting RS3, and also adding the Windows UI library. So go here. This is the project. It's targeting RS3, the Force Creators update. And go into my app. In my app, as just adding all this resource dictionary. There we go. Well, then I have to go to my views. In my shell, my main shell, looking for the navigation view. Let me just show the XAML. In here is the navigation view, and instead of using the control, in controlling the platform, I just say I want to use the WinUI control. I put this prefix.
So you've added a namespace for the Windows UI controls.
This is the namespace that I added.
Microsoft UI XAML controls.
Yep. And just change the prefix, because they are using exactly the same APIs. Yeah, and say, all right, I want to just point it to a different control. Go to the code behind, because sometimes we have some events, and this event requires a specific type. And in the code behind, you need to do exactly the same thing. Just reference this namespace and change the events. Just say that, hey, call this type from this namespace.
Okay, so any of the new controls that you want to use from the current release backported to RS1 or RS3, you just need to update the resource dictionary, add the namespace to your XAML file and your code behind file, and then update the prefix or the namespaces for the controls when you actually use them.
Correct. So let
Let's
me
see how that looks.
Yep. It's deploying. It says ready, but there we are. Again, no, I don't want to use Windows Hello. And you already have the navigation view in the top, and we support RS3.
That's awesome.
It is. Also, we have more and more controls that are going to be in this way, but more details in the session of all.
Yeah, so to summarize with that, go back to display. WinUI library is a capability we've added to the modern platform. It gives you the latest platform controls down level. We're shipping the binaries, native code binaries down at level to RS1 or the anniversary update. It's available in pre-release form today. You can get started and explore it with the XAML Controls Gallery app. and be able to add all those new wonderful controls to your existing applications. For more information, there is a talk later this afternoon. Paul Gusmerino really goes into details of XAML and Fluent UI and all the things that we don't have time for here. One thing we also highlighted that ink is everywhere now in the text boxes by default, and there's a session on Thursday where you guys can learn more about inking support for applications. So tell me a little bit about more of the control investments we're making outside of WinUI.
Sure. We have a third channel to deploy to shipping control, which is the Windows Community Toolkit. With the Windows Community Toolkit, we want to share with all the community the source code so people can contribute to these controls. So in this time frame, we are releasing one control, which is the data grid for everyone in the Windows Community Toolkit. It's a similar functionality that you can find in WPF and Silverlight control that you have, but all there available with the source code, so you can starting to use this data grid right now.
So the Windows Community Toolkit, if you haven't heard about it, is a collection of helper functions, custom controls, and app services. And it really simplifies and demonstrates common developer tasks for building apps for Windows. Toolkit's also kind of managed by the .NET Foundation. The toolkit, the greatest thing is it's shared source on GitHub, so you can always explore the code and see what we've done. And as Miguel mentioned, the Windows UI library, those are native code controls. Microsoft, we own the source, and that's all internal to us. The Windows Community Toolkit, though, it is shared source, so you can always take a look at it. There's also a Community Toolkit sample app that you can use to explore all the functionality of the toolkit. There's not only the controls that we've kind of sponsored with data grid and also the graph controls, which I'll show later, but there's a couple dozen additional community-oriented controls like blade view and some other interesting controls like that. We don't have enough time to demo that because we need to get to some more meaty stuff. You've showed me all this great new controls for universal apps. I have a .NET application. I want to use inking support or navigation view in my .NET application. How do I do that?
This is very interesting. Use something that we call SAML Island. So if you want to use this kind of fluent, delightful control that we are already doing. So, sorry, go back.
Go back? Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
So we are creating a set of helpers that is going to possible that you have your app, WPF, Win4, or even Win32 native app can put SAML content inside of this. That means that you can create some kind of SAML content, SAML island content inside of your app. The two components, set of components that we are going to ship, or we are shipping right now, is at the level of the platform is some kind of host that is going to do all the work for you. This host is the word who's going to create all the environment to set up all the property of the things allowed to render the SAML islands. And another thing is a set of control using the Windows Community Toolkit that grabs this low-level API and make it easier for WPF developers and Win4 developers to consume the SAML islands. So if you are a Win32 developer, you want to use this low-level API, but if you are WPF or Win4 developer, you don't have to deal with all these things. You have to consume directly these wrappers. Let me go into the details about how looks like these low-level APIs to understand all the mechanisms that make possible the SAML islands. So this is your app. This is your window, and everything in Windows have an H-wing. So the desktop Windows SAML source requires that you pass to him an H-wing. What this doing the desktop Windows SAML source is creating a child window where it's going to host all the content. When you have this new window inside of your parent window, you can use the SAML controls and put as a content of the desktop Windows SAML source. And then you have your user experience. Looks like simple, right? But it's a little more complicated because you have to deal with several things. You have to deal with the tab management, with the keyboard focus, with the real layout. You have to do several things. Let me jump into a sample in C++ just to take a look how it looks like that.
Switch.
Number 7. There. This application. So in here is a C++ WinRT sample. You can see how I creating a new window, like we did in always. I create window, which I get the H-wing. When I have the H-wing, the thing that I need is just, first of all, create the right apartment for WinRT. Second one, the thing I need to do is just set up everything about the SAML islands. So I can do that creating this object, the Windows SAML Manager. The third thing I can do is create this object, the desktop Windows SAML source, which is asking the H-wing. This is the H-wing that I already have created in the window. And then when I have the H-wing, remember that desktop Windows SAML source is already creating a child window. So what I'm doing here is just getting at this child window, and when we have this child window, the thing I need to do is just set up the right side of this window. It's the thing that I'm doing in here. All right, I have all set up. My new window, everything is ready just to put some content inside. The thing I'm doing in the next lines are creating this stub panel, which is a SAML code. I'm creating a stub panel, with some color. I'm creating a text block. The text block is attached to the stub panel. All these controls are part of the content of the desktop Windows SAML source. Then let me run this. And this is your SAML island.
So you've just shown a Win32 app loading desktop, using the desktop Windows Source API to load a UWP XAML control, both a stack panel and a text box, into the application.
Yes.
Now, I'm not a C++ dev. I don't know, anybody still out there C++ on a daily basis? Some? No? Yep. I'm a .NET guy. Show me the easy way.
The easy way is just using the wrappers. Let me jump into the slides, and we will show you
back to 5
very quickly how everything works. There we go.
All right. Well, that's C++. Okay.
Yeah, we have more samples that we can share with the community. So what we're doing is two things. We are creating a Windows SAML host, which is a wrapper which is going to do all the work of calling this desktop Windows SAML source API. And we have found on the top of that a set of controls that are going to be even easier for you to create these SAML controls, like, for example, creating a web view, a map control, or other maps, more. Well, interesting points is right now all these controls are available in a Nugget package. So you can go to your app, adding a Nugget manager, and go into this package, and you will have all this functionality. I will show you later.
So you mentioned wrapper controls.
Yeah, wrapper control, we are going to have a set of controls. The two first that we already ship is the Windows SAML host, which is allowed to put any kind of random SAML, and the second one is the web view. The web view is using the Edge HTML. So it was requested for the people because the web browser for WPF or WinForm, they're always using the Internet Explorer, and it doesn't support very well HTML5. So people in the community asking once and again having that. Another set of control are the map control, the media player element, the in-canvas, and also the swatching panel that allows to you, for example, put that is 12 content inside of your WPF application. And we are still in development of the graph control. This is the idea, this is the plan that we have today about wrapping controls. Let me show this in a very quick demo. So let's go first to the WinForms. I have my WinForms application, very simple. In this part of the app, I place a web browser. In here, I'm going to place a web view. The first things I need to do is just go to the Nugget package, just reference and install this package, microsoft.toolkit.forms.ui.controls.webview. When I install that, and automatically, I'm going to have in my toolbox the web view control. Just drag and drop. I have my web view control as like another control that we have in WinForm. So let me go into the web browser. I'm going to grab this URL. I'm going to set up this URL to the web view control. And let me run this side by side. Let me go to full screen. And there we go. So you can see like the web browser is using Internet Explorer, which doesn't have completely good support for HTML5, but the web view already have, the web view which is using Edge is already have a much better support for HTML5.
So this is a great example where the modern platform has had the web view for a couple of years, but your .NET apps have been stuck with the web browser control. And if you've ever needed HTML5 support for intranet or other scenarios in your applications, now through the WebView wrapper control that's shipped as part of the Windows Community Toolkit, you can now add those to your existing applications and get much richer HTML5 support.
Yeah, one small detail about the WebView, something I really like it, is about the WebView is already in a different process. Means that is for some way we go into some hacky site and try to down your web browser, the application is still running. So let me do a quick demo. Go to the task manager, go into the details. Let me find out this WinForm app. It should be something at the end. This is the app, and it should be, oh, there will be another web.
One up from the selected item, there's the web view.
Oh yeah, thank you, I didn't see that. I'm going to just kill this process. And that's it. It happens that...
Does your app still work? So your app could save state and exit if something bad happened to the web view control.
Yep.
So it's much more robust as well.
All right, more things about the Summary Islands. This is the simple one. Means that I have my controls, my wrapper control, I can drag and drop, put in this control in my WPF or WinForm application. But what is if I want to add controls and I don't have a wrapper for that? So I will going to open a WPF application in here, this one, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did with the WinForm. Right click in the reference, go into my packages, and I'm going to install the Microsoft Toolkit WPF.ui.SAML host. I told you before, we have this kind of Windows SAML host control that is going to allow to put any kind of random SAML content inside of the island. Well, a simple app, go into my WPF app, you will see that there is a control in here in the toolbox that I can drag and drop into my canvas. Yes, and instantiate this object, Windows SAML host, and two small details. The first one is I need to specify the type of the content root of each SAML island. to specify the type of, this content root is going to, I need to set up this property initial type name. So in this case, I'm setting up a button. In here, you can see I have a stub panel. And in the last sample, I have an in canvas. But also, if I want to set up some property in this type of SAML, I need to go into the child change event and set up all the properties in the code behind. So go there, and you see all this event and on button change, I have my Windows SAML host. I just cast into the type, and I'm starting to set up all the properties on my SAML button. I press F5 and running. You will see a button which is calling a WPF message box. Also, you have some inking. So I can mix WPF and SAML all together in just one app.
So yeah, so using the desktop, the Windows XAML host, it's very similar to, what was it, like the WinForms control host?
Yeah,
I forget what that was called.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. But now you can host XAML content mixed in with your WinForms or WPF applications. And you can dynamically create these controls in your XAML and in your code and add them to the host control. Now, what if, though, I've built my own beautiful user control in the modern platform, and I want to be able to use that in my yep.
All right, I can do that. But the problem today is we don't have Visual Studio support, so we had to do some tricky things. But let me explain that because it's a very interesting scenario. I go with this app, which is it's a WPF app using the Windows Community, the Windows Community Toolkit with this Windows SAML host control. In here, in this app, I already have a WinRT component, a SAML user control. So if I go to my user control, you will see like how it looks like this, which is a color picker, for example, and I'm setting up a lot of property. You can put in here whatever you want. You can put a command bar with a lot of control, your user control.
Okay.
Well, we have our user control. I want to use this user control in my WPF. So looks like that it could be something like that, right? Initial type name and reference to this component, right?
So you reference it just the same?
Yes, it looks like that, but it's a little more complicated because the SAML islands in WPF, actually WPF using .NET framework, but WinRT is not using .NET framework. They are using some kind of framework of .NET. So two different kind of framework, and we need a way just to make sure that this component is running in the island. The only option that we have today is just cross-compiling. Means that I need to grab the code in your WinRT component, copy into the project or WPF, and compile that. Well, how I can do that? First of all, when you compile something in WinRT, we can go into the folder and we will see in the OBJ that there is a lot of auto-generated code. Some of this code is related with your control. You will see all these files, everything's about the control that you already developed. And
these are the XAML code gen file for your user control.
Yeah.
The code behind in types, yep.
And also you require something more. You require a way just to specify the type and register the type of your control. And this is the file that you need also to add to your WPF project. The things I did is just copy all these files in here, just compile. You do that right now, you will get an error. And the reason is because, all right, the code that is generating this tool is generating the SAML compiler is not still compatible with the .NET framework. We need to generate code which is compatible with .NET framework. The thing that we can do is go into the project, unload the project, edit this project, and change the behavior of the compiler. Say, hey, don't generate this code because it's not compatible with the .NET framework, please, and that's it.
So these are two properties that turn off UWP-specific type generation in your XAML control to make it so it's more compatible with the .NET framework.
Yeah. Let me just reload the project and run the app. That's it. My user control is working inside the WPF app. Right, awesome. So yeah, it is awesome. Well, let me show you some small details about what is happening with the XAML island. Okay.
Just before that, I guess, just to summarize with XAML islands, we're giving you wrappers. The first one available is the web view control for simple HTML5 support, and we'll add more over time. The XAML host is also available to support any kind of Windows platform control. For your user controls, as you saw, it's kind of an advanced scenario. It's pretty hacky right now, and we're working with Visual Studio to improve that experience over time. If you want to explore it and experiment with it, we welcome that, but it's not quite ready for production code.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of the things I want to highlight. So right now, the XAML islands, everything that we talk about, is a pre-release. Means that it's not done yet. We have a lot of limitations that we are working right now to support that. Limitation that, for example, no Visual Studio support, but also we have airspace issues. The reader is not working at all with the content. So we have problem with the DPIs. The good things, we have a roadmap, and we are working in making sure that XAML Island have enough quality to create great application with it. So things that we are going to do in what we're going to release in the half of the 2019 is about support for Visual Studio, DPI awareness, making sure that the inking expressing is working inside of the XAML control. But we have a lot of more stuff that we are going to continue working and doing in the next releases of Windows. But your feedback is really, really, really critical, important for us. So if you have some scenario, you want to test this XAML island, you want to give some, tell us good things, please use the user voice, Twitter, or maybe this email, tell us.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go quickly over some additional platform investments around the windowing API space. I don't have a demo here, but this is another example of we're bringing the power of the desktop into the modern platform. Well, the challenge that we face is how do you take the modern input experience that was originally designed for mobile consumer scenarios that are typically full screen and touch oriented and enhance that to include all the power of the desktop with its floating windows, toolbars, parent-child relationships, and always on top windows. It's kind of a complicated model. And so that's why I don't have a demo to you right now, but I wanted to at least show you a roadmap. In the near future, for 2019, they're working on main windows scenarios like windows on the same thread so they all minimize and restore together. And then they're going to move on to companion window scenarios like tool windows, which to give you developers the power to control your main window placement, positioning, and size. And beyond that, we're working on closing the gap further to include additional window styles, such as transparency and custom title bars. The main thing here is the team wants your feedback as to what to prioritize. What do you guys use in your desktop applications that you want to bring forward into the modern platform?
So one question that people always ask is about, hey, I saw multiple views in your inventory sample. So what is that? It's not exactly the same. Windowing is not exactly the same. So when you saw all these views, they are in different threads. You have to deal with a lot of things because you have to communicate between the threads. Windowing is about support this scenario in an easy way, plus more and more and more stuff.
So let's, we still have a lot more demos to get through, but let's summarize the, what you just saw with the UI platform. A couple of key investments: inking directly in text boxes, XAML islands are big features that we've added. The WinUI library, being able to ship down-level controls of what we currently ship today, is, I think, a huge platform booster and capability for your applications. And we're releasing more code open source on the Windows Community Toolkit with like the data grid and the host controls for the XAML island wrappers. You can actually look and see how those are implemented. Looking forward, we're continuing to flesh everything out with the windowing APIs and flesh out XAML islands, as well as continue to build on the Windows UI library. One thing we didn't have time to demo was density. Windows, with its touch-based or touch-oriented experiences, has a lot of white space. That's not necessarily optimal for many enterprise scenarios which need data-dense UI. And so they're introducing a compact mode, which will even make it more desktop application-like. All right, moving on to a couple other demos. One of the challenges that we have, we're transitioning out of UI space into lower-level runtime features. And this is a scenario where we're bringing more modern capabilities to the desktop platform. We've been improving a lot of the APIs in Windows, and many of you .NET devs don't realize that you can actually call those APIs today. You don't have to be a UWP app to call all the new Windows 10 APIs. The challenge is that VS doesn't make it easy for you to do this. You have to kind of reference everything manually. And we're working with them to improve this in the next version of Visual Studio, and especially with their .NET Core 3.0 work. But let's go over it now. An example of many of the APIs we've improved on is like Bluetooth and the Windows or sensors and devices space. Speech and Cortana are areas where we've also got some feedback of interest. Mixed reality and 3D is an area for a lot of industrial machining scenarios. Machine learning is kind of a very hot topic as well. Those all have very first-class APIs in the modern platform. And some of them have options to get into Win32, but it's not as full-featured. One of the things, though, is all these APIs, many of them you can call today that have the dual partition API attribute. Let me click on an example and show you. All right, PowerPoint is loading something. Not what I clicked on. Got some sort of PowerPoint to edge communication failure. When that comes up, we'll talk about it, or I'll show it. But the APIs, I don't have internet connection or something there. All right. If you go to the Windows docs or API docs, you'll see the dual API partition attribute. It essentially means the API is callable directly from desktop apps or universal apps. One of the reasons why APIs aren't decorated with dual APIs is because they require a couple of concepts that are unique to the universal platform. The first is identity. Identity is really how you, as an application, register yourself with Windows, and Windows manages your application for you. And that's an attribute of all modern applications. Some APIs require that because they have sort of a trust relationship with Windows in order to use the API. We do have a solution for you, and I'll show you an example of that regarding the MSIX packaging. That gives your apps identity. Another example is Core Window. Core Window is kind of the windowing concept that all the modern application is built on. Any API that shows UI or deals with XAML controls depends on a core window. And Miguel showed you exactly how you can leverage those APIs via XAML islands going forward. So the two big areas that cause APIs not to be not marked dual have solutions for you. Miguel showed you one for core window. Let me show you one with identity. I think I'm 6. So one of the APIs that I thought relevant for this audience might be how to get a hardware ID of a specific device. So there's this API called Windows System Profile System Identification. Get system ID for publisher.id. Before I call this API, I want to show you there's 2 things you need to do in order to call most Windows APIs. The first is you add a reference to the system.runtime.windows runtime. This is a .NET assembly. Where's the location? Yeah. So this is a .NET assembly in the .NET framework. And that handles a lot of extension methods for Windows types and interop between .NET framework and Windows Universal Apps. The second is you need access to the APIs themselves, and they're all inside this large windows.winmd, which you'll usually find in your Windows Kits 10 folder. So if you reference those, you have access to all the Windows APIs that you want to call. And this one, the system ID is essentially a byte array, and I need to convert it to a hex string, and then I could store that hex string. The second API I'm going to call is toast notifications that interact with the Action Center, right? A toast is really just an XML blob that's sent to the Action Center, and the Action Center goes and renders it. There's many different formats for toasts. I'll show you just a simple generic one, which takes a title, content, and then a link to a couple of images. But to call this, really, you create a toast based on the XML, and then you call this toast notification manager, which actually registers it with the Action Center. So let me run this real quick. And let me call get system ID. And what we have here is a unique identifier for my hardware. It's resilient to hardware changes. And you can store that for any kind of device management scenarios you have. Now, I mentioned that many APIs require identity. This is a case of an API that requires identity, and my app is currently not packaged. You can see down in the taskbar that it has a standard WinForms icon. So if I call this, I'm going to crash. If I was in the runtime, it would say something like element not found, or if I was in the debugger, it'd say element not found, or something like that.
Very helpful.
Yeah. But let me show you how to add packaging to your product, to your application. There is support currently built in Visual Studio for something called the Windows Application Packaging Project. This is currently what's in Visual Studio today. It's going to evolve to become the MSIX packaging in the near future, and the experience might change in the next version of Visual Studio. But I want to show you what we have today, and you can follow up with the MSIX folks in a future talk to understand what the packaging is going to look like down the road. But if you add this project is fairly simple. It just repackages your application, and it has a special node called an app reference. And if I click on that app reference node, I can reference the applications or the projects in my solution and package those. The other thing it adds is it adds default images, which are used by registering your app with the system. For now, I've just got the default images, which are all these big, ugly X's. So if I set this application as startup, and that's it, I really haven't changed anything else, I'll show you the code behind on the manifest file. So when you create this packaging project, it creates a manifest file, and this is the identity that my application is registered with. I can customize this name, but it also identifies the publisher, so you know who created this application. And now if I run it, sorry, I've been fighting a bad cold for the last week and a half, and it's still holding on.
Should I cross my fingers?
Yeah, where did it go? Build started, but not debugging. What happened? Okay, I'll start it with debugging. Let me see if there's one thing I can kill. If not, we'll have to move on. Let me try closing the solution and reopening it.
It was working. I saw it.
It was working a half an hour ago. It says build failed, but I don't get any errors. All right, I guess you'll have to trust me that we'll get a notification. If I ran that code, it would pop up here with a picture of the day. I got a few other demos I want to move on to, so maybe if I come back to this one, we can get back to it. All right, so there's references here in the documents on how to enhance your application with existing APIs. And remember, the two key things are to reference windows.winmd and the Windows runtime for interop support. It does additional support for async and tasks to map between Windows runtime and the .NET framework stuff. Microsoft Graph. So as many customers are moving some of their internal assets to the cloud, we realize that your applications also need to take advantage of the graph. So what the Graph team has built, the Graph team has built a Graph SDK, and we've also augmented that with some Graph toolkit controls. But first, I don't know, I don't have a full concept of exactly the graph, but in a nutshell, how I understand the graph is that it's a gateway to your data and intelligence that's part of Microsoft 365. Essentially all the information about you and your org that's stored up there in the cloud, including user information, organizational hierarchies, your documents in SharePoint and OneDrive, and your managed devices. And the great thing is that new services are being added all the time. We recently added user activities in Windows 10 and worked with the Graph team to get those user activities to be published in the graph. And what that does is it allows you to easily pick up activities across devices, where you start an activity on, say, your mobile phone, and you pick it up on your desktop to go finish the job and do the real work. Essentially, the graph provides that unified programming model that you can easily take advantage of the tremendous amount of data through a single endpoint. So what we have are the Graph SDK. We've also built some graph controls in the Windows Community Toolkit. There's a login control, a profile card, the people picker for searching your organization hierarchy for people, a SharePoint list. Those were part of the original release. Very recently, they added planner tasks and a Power BI embedded control. Those are all available for UWP right now, but there is wrappers we're working on, as Miguel mentioned, for Win32 coming soon. And you can also participate in the graph via user activities. You'll see that in Windows Timeline. So let me give a demo of that. Am I 6 or 7? I'm 6. So what I have here is a demo that uses the graph. I'll show you the toolkit packages. And it's really, I just installed the graph controls from the toolkit, Microsoft Toolkit UWP UI Graph. When I reference that, all the toolkit controls reference the graph service that is part of the toolkit. So when I use the toolkit, I need to initialize the graph service from the, when I use the controls, I have to initialize the graph service from the toolkit. And it takes this thing called a client ID. Does everybody know what a client ID is? No?
No idea.
No idea? Okay. A client ID is what you register your application in the application portal for Azure. And when you log in with your enterprise credentials or your credentials, you can register an application. And this is the identifier that identifies the application in the cloud. And you copy that ID and you use it in your application request from the client. Other interesting things here are the permission request graph. So in my application, I want to read and send mail. I want to read about the user, and read about the user. So in this instance, I've got a couple of variables up here that have the client ID. That's the same client ID in the string. And the permissions I've requested, reading about the user, sending mail, and also people.read so that I can get all the people list. When you first run the application, the first time, it'll ask you to confirm the permissions that you've requested from the application. So using the Toolkit's graph service, once I've initialized it, then I can easily call. In this example, my app will send an email based on the people I've chosen from the people picker, and give it a subject, a text, and then convert the people picker into an array of users based on their email address. So when I launch this, okay, this one worked. The AD control just provides a very simple sign-in functionality for me, and you can customize the look and feel of this control. By default, it shows you, your user picture, name, and email address. In the people picker, I'll send email to someone, myself, and it lists everybody that's in the Microsoft Graph for my organization, and I can send email to myself saying hello from Ignite. And so it succeeded. Let me go for a second, and we'll see that I got an email right there. So that was sent through the graph to Outlook. So we have a lot of integration between all these services. Now, I mentioned user activities as something else that you can do. In here in the code, I actually had a task that went ahead and created a user activity for me. User activities have a fairly simple API. You create an activity. You got to give it some sort of name. And then you set up a couple of assets or properties about that activity. One is what is the default text you want to display about this activity? And that'll show up in Windows Timeline, and I'll show you here in a second. And the second is an activation URI. So when you click on that tab in Windows Timeline, what does it activate you with? So you can pick up where you left off or get some any kind of activation data. And then you publish that activity to this session by creating the session. So I've already done that, so let me pick up this task view, which shows me Windows Timeline. You can see all the work that I've been doing. Some of these short-lived activities don't show up right away in your feed, so you can choose See All Activities. And if I go to right here, you'll see My Application Graph Demo Email Sent. And if I click that, my application will launch. So, with that, I've showed you great controls and use the Graph SDK, initialize a service, and do something as simple as send email through the graph to a recipient list grabbed from the people picker. As I mentioned, there's a lot of other controls you can go explore. Those are available in the Windows Community Toolkit app. I've also shown how to call another Windows API, which registers user activities to your Windows timeline. All right, we're 5 minutes over. I have a .NET Core 3 demo, so if you bear with me, I can show you a quick update about .NET Core 3. It's another case we're improving the platform. But first, if you've never heard about .NET Core, it is really our cross-platform open source implementation of .NET, and it was originally optimized for cloud-native cross-platform services, and they've made significant investments in the core performance as well as the web stack so that you can easily take advantage of those cloud patterns and scale. .NET Core 3 will expand upon those supported workloads to include IoT, AI, and Windows Desktop. .NET Core 3 supports WinForms and WPF frameworks. We're working very closely with them to make sure that they have built-in support for XAML islands and also get all the goodness of your high DPI on WinForms. We'll make sure you have access to all those Windows 10 APIs. And another great advantage of .NET Core 3 is that it includes a .NET Core app bundler, which compiles the application, links it, and optimizes its size. A couple of benefits of .NET Core 3. This is a bit of a recap if you saw Scott Hunter and Scott Hanselman's talk. But one of the main benefits is it's side-by-side, meaning a .NET Core update is not going to break your app because your app is still going to talk to that version of .NET Core it was compiled against. .NET Core can be installed whether it's machine global or app local. As I said, it's where most of the investment going forward is. Another advantage for developers is that the project system is SDK-based, simplifying your project files from these huge mass of configuration information to simple references. We did announce .NET Core 3 at Build 2018. An update since then is that they've built internal SDKs to support WinForms and WPF. Visual Studio support has been added for at least building and debugging. Designers are not there yet, and we're still working with the team on getting a preview out. One clarification, .NET Core 4.8 is still going to be there. When it's available, you guys can update your applications and get highly compatible functionality for the .NET framework. A lot of the investment going forward is going to be on .NET Core 3. And so if you're ready to move to take advantage of some of those side-by-side installs and interop between those workloads, you can opt in to taking advantage of .NET Core 3. So I will do one last quick demo. All right, and what I have is the pie chart sample. This is a WinForms application that will grovel a specific folder and give you a chart based on how big each of those folders are. You can see that this application is running against the .NET framework because it's loading all those native images. And there's a recent bug on my build. Oh, it came up faster. Where this is using the Telerix pie chart control. It's not using any of our stuff. And it just works on top, or this is the .NET Framework version, so it's just working. You can see that took 6.3 seconds. Wow, it keeps getting faster. What I have here is pysample.core. And this is the same code, same app running on top of .NET Core. What I have open here is actually the projects file. It's a lot simpler, saying it's a .NET Core app, and it references WinForms and the Telerik controls. Right now, this version launches a command window. That'll be fixed in future versions. But if I go through and look at my NuGet packages folder, tell it to run, and while it's running, I'll show that it is actually loading Core CLR from .NET Core. And you can see that it executed the same thing, and it took 2.2 seconds. So what was the before one? 6?
6.
So in this targeted example, but it was doing file I/O over a very large folder. The .NET Core implementation of file I/O is about one-third the cost of .NET Framework, or 3 times as fast. So look to the future for more updates regarding .NET Core. Again, it's highly compatible, improved performance, also robust because of its side-by-side capabilities. One thing I didn't have time to demo, but Scott does, is he takes the output of this project and calls up a volunteer from the audience, copies the exe onto their machine, and proves that it runs as a single file exe on your machine, even though you don't have .NET Core installed. It's a great demo to see. And with that, the summary of this talk. So, we're continuing to make investments in the Windows platform, especially for Windows UI controls and framework updates, trying to focus on desktop productivity. We're enabling those framework updates to work in your existing code, whether it's Win32 or .NET via XAML islands. And we're enhancing your existing code by showing you how to integrate with the graph, as well as for those people that want to explore the bleeding edge, you can start experimenting with .NET Core 3. Here's a few links for more information that we talked about. And lastly, I think is pretty much just here's some related talks. I didn't have time to get into MSIX. That'll go over the packaging of existing apps. You'll definitely want to take a look at them. I also did not actually demo user activities in the graph, but you can see that demo in the BRK3116, and also another graph overview, 3322. And with that, any questions?
Yeah.
We do have a few swag bags if anyone has a good question. Beat up Miguel over XAML Islands.
There's one question over there.
Yes.
So how do I get started?
Thank you.
I was just wondering how would I get started by taking my old normal .NET framework application and start to do .NET Core?
.NET Core 3.
Yes.
We're currently working with corporations on kind of an early adopter scouting exercise. If you want to talk to me afterwards about that, I can follow up with you. The additional thing, though, is the SDK builds actually are out there on the .NET Core site. You can download and experiment with them.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and we have something for you.
Of course.
Any other questions? Yes.
Sorry. We're trying to go to UWP.
Yep.
And our demo desktops have all had the store and the developer mode disabled, which means you can't load or compile.
You can't sideload things if your dev mode is disabled.
So is that something you've seen in other companies? Does that happen a lot? Or what's the plan there?
We should talk with Andrew Klinick and John Vinsel, the MSIX guys. They do a lot of this. They handle that side loading scenario. I haven't heard where the store is disabled as well as developer mode. It kind of makes it hard to be a UWP developer without those.
Yes.
So I don't know if we can probably talk offline at the Windows developer booth is where you can find us. There's also us in the MSIX packaging, and we can try to figure out or talk through some more details of that.
Thank you.
We have a swag bag.
Oh, yeah.
One more question, one more swag bag? Nope. Okay, well, thank you very much. There's a lot of content to cover. I apologize for going a little bit over. Hope you enjoyed the content.
Thank you.